Welcome to another edition of News Bites here on Daily World Television. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. Today, folks, we're going to talk about one of India's largest internet communications and cell phone companies, a company called AirTel. Now, I'll say up front that I use AirTel, even though I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. My issues with AirTel are the same that millions of its customers have: frustrations. And in my case, let me give you some brief background. I'm a foreigner here from the United States, born and raised in the Silicon Valley, Northern Bay Area region of Northern California. My past employers have included everyone from the Boeing Company. I've worked at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and 7.5 years on 2 occasions at Apple and their software subsidiary, Claris. I've been an IT specialist since the mid-1980s, software developer. I know all about IT. My name even appears on some software products such as HyperCard, which was the ancestor to the internet. So I know all about IT. I can't be fooled on IT. Half my life, or over half of it, has been spent in the IT business as well as in journalism and mass media. I've had the honor of having both types of careers. So let me tell you the issues I have with AirTel. First of all, AirTel suffers from a problem that is still living 10, 15 years ago, the way things were done 10 or 15 years ago in the West. In the West, in Europe and the United States, many people pay a flat fee for unlimited internet, unlimited phone calls. Yet over here in India, things are still done backwards, the way they used to be, where things are metered. You pay a fee, it's good for 28 days, nothing rolls over, etc. But the worst offense that AirTel commits, and this is a biggie, and it's actually illegal, you can look it up, has to do with the fact that they don't give you the service that everybody's paying for. Let me prove it. If you use AirTel at night, especially after midnight, between midnight and 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning, try using their 4G services. There's many software packages that you can download that will actually track the bandwidth that is being used and the speed. And what you will see is a pattern that's rather curious, and an investigation done by this journalist as well as a prior newspaper talking to 5 different customers of 5 different companies, all of whom are IT experts, proves that AirTel throttles their bandwidth at night, obviously to lower costs. In other words, while you pay for 4G or 4G LTE services, just track the speed and the throughput of what you're getting, and you'll see that the numbers are not always what they're cracked up to be. This is because AirTel does not consistently provide that service. Now, here's the thing. If you're paying a company for 4G services, and that company is not providing it 24/7, when they're not providing it, especially when it goes on almost every day during certain periods of time, over a period of a month, they're actually defrauding you. In fact, according to the laws, even in India, which are not exactly the strongest ones compared to the West, the company is supposed to give you a credit to your account. So what happened to me about a year ago is I brought this issue to AirTel's attention. Now, I admit that they sent several people out to the flat. They were very nice. They tried to fix the problem, but they did things like telling me to move my modem closer to a window in another room where I didn't want it to be so that I could get a stronger signal. Rather than fix the problem to begin with, that is boosting their signal, they wanted me to physically move my hardware into a room that wasn't even occupied where my computer was. That was ridiculous. Secondly, I kept showing with screenshots and with software I have on my computer that measures the bandwidth and the speed throughput, that I was not getting the 4G speeds that I was paying a couple of thousand rupees a month for. That is not legal. So what happened is I quit paying my bill at AirTel and I canceled my service. Then they kept calling me, harassing me, saying I owed them money when I didn't. I asked AirTel to send me one simple thing. Send me a report that shows me when the service was working properly and when it wasn't. Adjust my bill accordingly and I'll be happy to pay what I owe. AirTel refused to do that. They refuse to do that likely because they don't want to admit in writing with their own paperwork that they're not really providing you 4G or 4G LTE speed that they're legally obligated to under Indian law when you're paying for said services, but they are not providing it. Again, I challenge you to do this, any AirTel customer. Use your internet somewhere between midnight to 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. Look at the speeds that you get versus what they're advertised. Unless you happen to be an exception instead of the rule, it seems, you will not be getting what you're paying for. AirTel does seem to be throttling their servers at night to save costs. And let's be honest about AirTel, it's really Ericsson. It's not AirTel per se. It's a foreign entity that uses Ericsson technology. When I spoke to AirTel's technical people, they admitted they were Ericsson. So unless they were lying, that's what's really going on. So I continue to use AirTel only because the internet choices in India are lousy. They're lousy compared to the West. Let me prove it with one real example. When I lived in Europe for 10 years in the Czech Republic, which was a former communist country in the Cold War years, I had a simple cable modem. By the time I left the Czech Republic and moved to India some 7 years ago, I had 8 megabit bandwidth. 8 megabits. Do you have 8 megabits today in India, 7 years after I did in the Czech Republic? Most likely not. And in the West, in Europe, and in the US, when you pay for 4G or 4G LTE services, you really tend to get those speeds. But that's not what's happening in India. So India's problems is that they let their providers get away with not practicing or not delivering what customers are paying for. There's no automatic mechanism in place, as AirTel has confirmed to me several times, to automatically adjust your bill when they're not providing the bandwidth that you have contracted and paid for. Instead, consumers take it on the chin, nothing happens, no one seems to care, and as I hear all the time from people in India when things go good as well as bad, hey, it's India. So if you think that's an excuse, more power to you. In my view, it's wrong.